Hello everyone and welcome to the first game we'll be covering from the London Chess Classic. This is the game from round 3 and a couple of very nice games have been played. I will feature them all, but this is the one I'm starting with and for a very good reason. You will see why. So it's Gukesh versus 2 times Ukrainian champion Andrei Volokitin, who also represented Ukraine 4 times in the Olympics and even won gold for his team in 2004. So definitely a strong player and interestingly Gukesh lost a lot of rating points in November. He was already in the top 10, but now he's back to 27-20. So it's very hard to say will he be able to play as many games as necessary to get his rating up to maybe even qualify for the candidates tournament. He is definitely strong enough to do it. We'll see what happens. So let's check it out. Gukesh has the white pieces and he opens with pawn to c4. He goes for the English opening. Knight to f6 by Andrei. We have knight to c3 and pawn to c5. Going symmetrical, we have pawn to g3 and pawn to d5, offering a trade in the center, which Gukesh goes for. Knight captures, pawn captures, knight captures, and bishop to g2. Now putting pressure on the knight, and sometimes the knight on c3 is captured, but mostly knight to c7 is the main move, considered best not to unnecessarily trade down. We have pawn to b3. Gukesh now ready to fianchetto his other bishop as well. We have pawn to e5 and bishop to b2. We have bishop to e7, Andrei ready to castle, and the rook to c1, getting ready to put pressure on that c5 pawn, whether by playing knight to a4 or maybe some other moves. We have castles, and now known moves here are just the continuing development with knight to h3, also knight to a4 going after the c5 pawn, but Gukesh plays knight to e4, and it is now already as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. And how can black react to this? Okay, your c5 pawn is hanging. You could just defend it with pawn to b6. That's what was played in the game. You could maybe ignore it, play knight to d7, but also defend the pawn this way. But you could also ignore it by playing knight to c6. I will show it because it's a super fun line where black sacrifices 2 pawns for a beautiful initiative. Now the idea is that after knight captures, you will play knight to e6. You offer a trade of knights, and after captures, you allow the e5 pawn to be captured as well. Bishop captures, pawn captures, and now bishop captures on e5. Does leave you with 5 pawns against 7, but you do have the bishop pair. For example, you can play bishop a3, you go after the rook here. Now, of course, capturing would be too dangerous due to bishop to d5 and then attack on both rooks. And if you go something like rook to c3, then you can play rook to e8, put some pressure on the bishop here. And if knight to f3, defending the bishop and preparing to castle, you can play bishop d5. So it's sort of scary. You can't castle because of bishop captures, removing the defender of the e5 bishop. And it's a very active play. Now, with perfect play, of course, white will handle this properly, give back at least 1 pawn, and okay, the game should be equal. But if if you want to play that way. But after knight to e4, Andrei decided to go for pawn to b6. He gave up the e5 pawn, also for some very active counterplay. Bishop captures on e5, and now bishop to b7. So okay, you have to do something. Bishop back to a1. You don't want the bishop to be a target here. And now comes queen to c8. This is a very nice move as it prevents any sort of knight to f6 check action, followed by picking up the bishop and the rook here. And now Andrei is asking Gukesh, what is your next move? Because it's very hard to develop here. You can't just go knight f3 because the knight hangs here. If you move the knight, then the bishop on g2 hangs. You cannot even develop with knight to h3 because simply bishop captures, not just that. You can even play f5 and then capture the bishop here. So not a lot of fun after this queen to c8 move. So what does Gukesh do? He plays pawn to g4, and the idea is that now you don't have to worry about any sneaky tricks because the queen also does not have access to h3, so that's also one of the reasons. For example, if the knight comes to h3, you can even play bishop captures on e4. That's the idea. And if bishop captures, queen captures on h3, and now if you play bishop captures on a8, the knight covers the a8 square. And black is, of course, now completely winning. But with the inclusion of this g4 move, the queen does not have access to h3 in that line that we've just shown. So what can you do here? Capturing, not the best, because you leave the bishop unattended. So now knight to f6 check will again cost you this bishop and the rook here. So what can you do? After queen to c8 and to g4, best is to continue knight to c6. But Andrei went for knight to e6, and this is where things get very interesting. Now Gukesh gets to develop knight h3, knight to c6, and now pawn to e3. Okay, not all that clear what Gukesh is doing, but you will see very quickly. Knight to b4 goes after the a2 pawn, and Gukesh says, all right, you can have that pawn. Knight captures on a2, and now as the rook is attacked, rook to b1, knight back to b4, and now pawn to f4. And all of a sudden, Gukesh has a castled king, and he has a beautiful attacking setup with f5 and g5 being ready to be pushed. The knight is already very close to the black king, this knight as well. The bishop on this diagonal, absolute beast. So this is what Gukesh got for his tricky play. So pawn to f6 limits the power of the bishop on a1. Now usually you don't want to play this move, but here it's actually the strongest move recommended by the engine. Queen to f3, sort of putting the queen in front of the bishop, but you are not planning to leave it there for long. Bishop to c6, and now the bishop to c6 comes, so it adds more defense to it, but also you want to shift the queen to b7 to add more pressure to this diagonal. Now comes pawn to f5, and this is the tricky moment in the game where Andrei has to decide what to do with the knight. And the only good move is knight to g5, which he did not go for. I'm going to show it to you because it's a beautiful capture fest that ends up with a sort of a drawn position, and knight captures on h5, f captures on g5, queen to g3, now unpinning from the bishop here. Now queen to b8, offering a queen trade. Bishop to b5 bishop to e5 stopping it. Queen to b7, and now pawn to f6. And after g captures, you will play knight captures on f6, bishop captures, and after bishop captures on g2, you will have to trade queens. Queen captures on g2, queen captures on g2, king captures, and now pawn to h6. You will defend your pawn here. Equal material, should be an equal game. But in the game after f5, he did not go for knight to g5. Andrei went for knight to c7, and now Gukesh has a beautiful attack starting with pawn to g5. So what do you do here? You could try some developing moves, but f captures and g5 was played, and now the idea is queen to g3, putting more pressure on g5. So pawn to h6, and now pawn to f6, blasting through. G captures on f6, and now what do you capture with? Of course, you capture with our good friend the bishop. I know you guys forgot about him, but he's still here. Bishop captures on f6, and now bishop captures on e4. And we've reached the position from the thumbnail where only one move gives Gukesh a clear winning advantage. So feel free to pause the video and try to find an absolute best move out of this complete mess of a position while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on not playing something weird like bishop captures on g5. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is knight captures on g5. That's the move that solves the position. And the reason is you take away all of the squares from the black king. The king cannot move, and you cannot get out of this nasty position. So what can you do? If you capture the knight, you're just getting checkmated. Queen captures on g5, king f7, and now it's a matter of a few moves. King e7, queen captures here, and after king to d5, bishop captures on e4, any move really will get the black king checkmated. So after this knight captures on g5 move, you cannot move the king, you cannot capture the knight, you might as well take something. Bishop captures on f6 was played by Andrei, but now rook captures on f6. And again, capturing on g5 is not an option, even though you removed one of the defenders, because now after you capture king to h8, now rook h6 check, bishop to h7. Seems like black was able to defend, but rook captures on h7 opens up this diagonal for the light square bishop, and that's pretty much it. Bishop e4 check, king h8, and now you get checkmated. So after rook captures on f6, rook captures on f6 was played, and now knight captures on e4 with check, nicely connecting here. And it doesn't matter if the black king defends the rook or not. If you defend the rook, you can simply capture here, and after king captures, the other rook gets the job done. The queen rook bishop combo will be deadly. Let's say king e7, queen to h4 check, king to d6. You can bring a rook into the game with check, king d7, rook to f7 again with check, king to d6, and now queen to e7 checkmate, or any of the possible lines that also result in checkmate. So king to h8 was played, and here just knight captures on f6, leaving black, or rather leaving Andrei with an equal material, but his position is just unplayable. There's really nothing for you to try. He tried queen to f5, sort of going after the rook and the knight, but it doesn't matter. Gukesh just played rook to f1, and he was in this position on move 28 that Andrei Volokitin resigned the game, as there is nothing more to to be done here. His queen is hanging. Also now his rooks and knight are defended. The Gukesh rook and knight are defended, and the knight on c7 will hang. There is no square for the black queen where you can defend that knight. Okay, either maybe you can go for queen to c8, but now queen to g6 goes after checkmate here, and there's no way to stop it. If you play queen f8, then queen to h7 is checkmate. If you go queen to g8 to stop this, well, obviously you can capture it, but also just queen captures on h6 is checkmate. So there is no move you can make to stop checkmate here. So after rook to f1, he resigned, and a very nice victory for Gukesh, who won his first game, but then was very close to losing against Nikita Vityugov. There was that one move in the end game where Vityugov could have sort of played it a bit more slower and prepare, and he would have gotten a winning position, but I mean, you have to play perfect moves, so he was able to survive that. He got a draw, and now a wonderful win against Andrei. Volokitin leaves Gukesh in the lead after 3 rounds have been played of the London Chess Classic, or rather it's a joint lead with Michael Adams, who's also playing some incredible chess, so we're gonna cover some other games as well after this one. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Brilliant play by Gukesh. That g4 move, I mean, you really can't make this stuff up. It was g4 here, just getting out of this position. I mean, if you don't know this, I imagine it was prepared, but in case it wasn't, just absolute brilliancy by Gukesh. But even if it was prepared, I mean, wow. So yeah, once again, really hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank David Gasparian, Diane Schwartz, Keep Up the Rapid, Robert Kvistenthal, and Sigurion Wilhelmsson for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.